Welcome to USA Gymnastics webinars. I'm your host, Lakeisha Hutchison, and today's topic we will be covering college gymnastics, the college recruiting process, with the author and founder of Victory Collegiate Consulting, Tom Kovic. Tom Kovic is the founder and president of Victory Collegiate Consulting, where he advises individual families and prospective student athletes in developing and executing personal plans for the college search. Tom has helped place over 300 athletes with colleges and universities across America since launching Victory Collegiate Consulting in 2006. Additionally, Kovic lectures nationwide and has represented and presented on college athletics recruiting at USA Gymnastics National and Regional Congress, U.S. National Lacrosse Convention, IECA National Convention, and the New York State Athletics Directors Convention, and more. So we want to welcome Tom Kovic today to our USA Gymnastics webinar.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Lakeisha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great to connect with the community that I'm very familiar with. I was a former college gymnast myself at Temple University back in the 1970s, coached 19 years at the University of Pennsylvania, and it's a joy to be here today and connected with a group that I well know. Today's presentation is basically the ABCs of college recruiting, and I'm going to discuss roughly 12 important, what I feel are 12 important chapters in the college recruiting process. And I always like to begin my seminars with this statement, and I believe it in my heart. When you break it down that these are truly 4 of the most important years in the lives of our children, yes, it's going to provide them with a great 4-year gymnastics experience in college, but as important, if not more important, it's going to provide them with a foundation that is going to give them personal and professional direction for the rest of their lives. Today's college culture has changed drastically compared to 20 years ago. Basically, college athletic directors expect college coaches to do 2 things, and that's win and raise money, and lots of it. In a sense, they're seen as CEOs of small organizations that are expected to do well and to do well on a regular basis. So, therefore, they need to drive their team from a gymnastics standpoint to the highest level possible. They need to maintain strong relationships with their alumni in order to get them interested in the program and support the program. Therefore, recruiting becomes the essential tool that helps drive the program to its highest level. When we're talking about NCAA rules today, we're going to be talking about contacts, evaluation, on-campus visits, off-campus visits, eligibility rules, and these NCAA rules are basically designed to protect families and their children in navigating a potentially daunting process. For instance, where families and their children can initiate contact with college coaches well before the junior year in high school, proactively. College coaches, in a sense, their hands are tied as far as what they can do. For instance, where families can reach out to coaches by email, by phone, proactively, college coaches can't respond to an email until September 1st of the junior year in high school. Coaches can't initiate phone contact with prospects until July 1st following the junior year in high school. When you look at the NCAA manual, it's a tremendous resource, and you can go to ncaa.org to retrieve the Division I, the Division II, or the Division III manual. And if you stack one manual on top of the other, well over 1,500 pages of information. But for your sake, and for your families, for your children, the most important chapters in the recruiting manual are the chapters on recruitment eligibility and financial aid. Okay, these rules keep the college coaches in check. And for the most part, these men and women are men and women of integrity. They follow the rules closely, and they respect the prospects that they recruit. Division II and Division III rules do differ slightly, so it's important that you guys have a good handle on that if indeed you're looking at Division II and Division III schools. So for instance, where college coaches can't initiate phone contact with prospects until just after the junior year in high school, Division II programs are permitted to contact prospects in the junior year. The NCAA Eligibility Center is a terrific organization. It's an organization that collaborates with the NCAA. They're not actually part of the NCAA, but they work together in determining initial freshman eligibility, initial college freshman eligibility. And any prospect that's interested in being part of a Division I or a Division II program must register with the Eligibility Center. It's a two-part process. So Part 1 can really be done at any time. My suggestion is to do Part 1 of registration during the early summer of after the sophomore year in high school. And you can basically go to the website, and the easiest way to get there would be to Google NCAA eligibility, and it will drive you right to the website, and you want to register. And what you'll need basically is a credit card. It's a one-time fee. I think it's $70. And the prospect will be generated a PIN after answering several questions with regard to amateurism and providing the Eligibility Center with contact information. Okay. Your daughter, your son want to be able to save this PIN number that's generated by the NCAA Eligibility Center. And updates to this profile that is created online can be done as they advance into the junior year, into the senior year. Okay. Part 2 is a team effort with the guidance counselor or the college advisor at the high school. The one thing that your son or daughter wants to do is visit the guidance counselor, let him or her know that she or he is interested in being part of a Division I or Division II college program, and that they could use the guidance counselor's help as far as finishing out the registration. And what the guidance counselor basically is going to do is forward to the NCAA Eligibility Center core courses and their grades, plus all standardized testing. And with that information, the NCAA Eligibility Center will determine whether or not your son or your daughter is eligible to practice and compete. Okay. So as far as the requirements for the NCAA eligibility, and trust me, and I think you'll all agree, that for gymnasts just happen to be very, very strong students. And 99.9% of our students are going to be eligible to practice and play. But you still need to register, okay? So, for instance, with Division I gymnastics, okay, where you remember we have to submit the core courses, the grades, and the standardized testing. Well, with standardized testing, they use what's called a sliding scale, okay? So a student who presents a 2.3 grade point average, core course grade point average, needs to present at minimum a 1080 on the SAT reading and math portions. On the opposite end of the scale, you might have a student that presents a strong grade point average, let's say 4.0, okay? In that case, having a strong grade point average, they can get away with a weaker standardized test score. So that translates to a 400 aggregate. That's 200 on two parts of the SAT. Okay. The NCAA sliding scale is also on the NCAA website at ncaa.org. Okay. Division II eligibility is slightly different. Okay, it's pretty much straight across the board. Students need to provide or maintain a minimum grade point average of 2.0 and a 860 aggregate on the SAT, verbal and math, or a 68 sum score on the ACT. Division II requirements also. Actually, Lakeisha, did we jump ahead with the core grades?
Yes, we did.
Can we jump back to the Division I requirements?
We sure can.
There? Okay. Here are basically the nuts and bolts of the requirements. Okay, so 1, they have to present 16 core courses. Of the 16 core courses, 4 years of English, 3 years of math, 2 years of natural or physical science, 1 year of additional English, math, or science, 2 years of social science, and 4 years of any courses above or foreign language and comparative religion or philosophy. They also need to graduate from high school. Okay? And we went over the sliding scale. Terrific, Lakeisha. Thanks.
No problem.
We can advance to the next. There we go. Okay. In 2016, the Division I the Division I eligibility requirements are going to change. Okay, students still need to maintain the 16 core courses. Okay, let me just jump here for a second. My computer. Here we go. Okay, but they're going to shift the requirements to the fact that 7 of the 10 must be in English, math, or natural or physical science. And these courses need to be completed at the start of the 7th semester or the senior year in high school. Okay, the corresponding ACT and SAT will remain the same, and there will be use of the sliding scale. They need to graduate from high school. Okay, and with regard to Division I Ivy League, students also need to meet the same requirements for any, as compared to any other Division I program. Okay, and similarly, the Division II requirements are a little less stringent, but they too need to complete 16 core courses, 3 in English, 2 years in math, 2 years in natural or physical science, 3 additional years of English, math, natural or physical science, 2 years of social science, and 4 years of any of the courses above, plus foreign language, religion, or philosophy. They need to maintain a 2.0 grade point average and meet the expectations of the SAT aggregate of 860 and a sum score of 68 on the ACT. Division III is a little bit different as far as their eligibility requirements are concerned. There's no specific standard as far as eligibility is concerned. The rule of thumb is simply this. If a student athlete is admitted to a Division III institution, they will be deemed eligible to practice and play. Now, that being said, and pretty much across the board, Division III admissions can be a little bit more daunting than some of the Division I programs. But basically, these Division III programs are taking care of their eligibility within the institution and within the athletic department itself. So therefore, especially with Division III and Ivy League schools, working closely with the coaches of these programs in navigating the admissions process is going to basically kill 2 birds with 1 stone. It's going to assist the student athlete in successful navigation of the recruiting process, plus the coach will be very helpful as far as guiding the student through the admissions process. And in many cases, Division III college coaches, and I know for a fact being a former Ivy League coach, can have strong input in the admissions process and can basically be your best friend. Lakeisha, can we go back to campus visits? Yeah. I think campus visits is one of the most important links in the chain of the recruiting process, and it's important for us to understand the difference between the unofficial visit and the official visit first. The official visit is one that's paid in part or full by a college or university. Prospects are permitted to take a total number of 5 official visits with no more than 1 to any particular institution. They can begin taking these official visits starting the first day of classes in the senior year of high school. It's permission-based, so they're going to have to register with the NCAA Eligibility Center. Unofficial visits, on the other hand, are visits that are basically paid by families, can be taken virtually at any time and well before the senior year in high school. You can take unlimited unofficial visits to institutions and multiple visits to the same institution, and the unofficial visit is becoming more and more the more popular visit when it comes to navigating the recruiting process. I know many of you have heard about verbal offers that college coaches make to prospects, and not just in the junior year, but in the sophomore year, freshman year, even in middle school. Okay, and one of the reasons why these college coaches can make that commitment to prospects is that the prospects and families have basically made the effort in order to get face-to-face with the college coach on their campus. And where college coaches' hands are bound as far as the manner in which they contact prospects and families off campus, when families come to their campus, they could basically talk about anything under the sun as far as recruiting is concerned. So think of the college campus almost as an island. And once you and your family step on that island, basically you're free to talk to the college coach about anything that has to do with recruiting. So these campus visits give you a chance to take a look under the hood. Register for the information session and the tour. Okay. Try to get a good look at the institution and a good feel. But get the best bang for your buck and make sure you schedule a face-to-face meeting with coach. Contacts and evaluations, these are basically the tools that families and college coaches use in order to get to know each other. Okay. It's the rule of thumb or the operative when it comes to contacts especially, and this is the tool that the families use to generate communication with the college coaches, is to be proactive. If you're waiting for your inbox to fill or for the phone to ring, it's likely going to be a long wait. Okay, but if your children happen to be prospects, let me just jump back for a second here. Blue chip prospects are not going to have much difficulty in this recruiting process. These are the kids that are attending JO Nationals year in, year out, and to take it a step further, they're amongst the top all-around competitors at JOs. Okay, they're going to have less difficulty in this process than student athletes that are actually in what I call the B file of college coaches' interest. And trust me when I say this, the B file is a very active recruiting file, but it's very competitive. And what our students and families need to do is develop a strategy that is going to help them advance or move to the top of that B file list. Okay? And being proactive as far as contacts are concerned, I think is very important. Like I said before, college coaches can't have face-to-face, off-campus contact with prospects until July 15th after the junior year. But that doesn't mean that a family and their athletes can schedule a visit with coach, okay, by using proactive communication during the sophomore year in high school. Let's just use as a perfect example. The recruiting process is about, in my mind and in my heart, it's about cultivating relationships with men and women who could very well be your coach over the next 4-year period. And college coaches are going to appreciate it. They're looking basically at 3 components when it comes to recruits. For strong students, impact athletes, and boys and girls that are going to bring a strong character component to the table. They're looking for future leaders. They're looking for strong links in the team chain. Evaluations, on the other hand, are the tools that college coaches use to get to know prospects and their families. And there's a number of ways that college coaches can evaluate. Okay, in attending competitions or attending showcases. They can evaluate by prospects providing them with YouTube video links of competition or of training. Okay, but they can also take a trip to the gym and not only evaluate your daughter, but every other student athlete that happens to be in the gym that particular day. But encouraging the college coaches to evaluate, providing them with a clear summary of what your competition schedule is, connecting with the coaches, inviting them to come to the gym to watch your daughter train or your son train. This is very important. Okay, coaches are also going to be evaluating from an academic standpoint. So by providing them with updated transcripts on a regular basis, updated standardized test scores will be helpful in building the portfolio for the college coach and the college that you're most interested in. And encouraging coaches to get to the point, especially after the junior year, to get face-to-face with the family in their home is a great sign of great support moving forward. I think if there's one chapter that's is probably important above the rest in this seminar is the chapter on effective communication. Remember, college coaches are looking for great athletes. They're looking for students that meet the minimum requirements to be eligible to practice and play. But they're looking for self-aware young men and young women. And using communication, okay, as your tool to meet that need, I think is critical. Okay. Trust me, college coaches want to hear from moms, they want to hear from dads, they want to hear from club coaches, but they desperately want to drive communication with the prospect. So not just communicate with college coaches, but just like in the gym, practice, bone up, go through mock interviews, and think of it almost as a connect the dot moving forward. So therefore, in the beginning of any recruiting process, and this is what I do with the students and the families that I advise, we basically set up a strategy of communication that is going to be impactful. Okay, so at the start of the recruiting process, sending an introduction email to the college coach and providing them with a snapshot of their interest in that particular institution. And with that, attach a personal profile that basically, and we're going to go over that in just a few minutes, personal profile that will give the coach an easy snapshot of who the prospect is. To be able to follow that up with communication as far as training progress is concerned. If you're in the midst of a competitive season, providing the coach with montage videos during the maybe 3 or I should say 4 quarters of a season. If you happen to be in summer training phase in June after JO Nationals or after Level 10 Easterns or Westerns, provide the coach with clear goals that you as a prospect plan to attain over the summer. Let the college coach know that you and your mom and dad are planning a campus visit on this date, and that you've registered with the admissions office for a seminar and a tour and would love to meet with Coach personally. That, of course, would be followed up by a phone call to arrange the visit. But communication is a tremendous tool to get to know the college coaches, but also build a strong relationship with them and give them a strong indication that your son or your daughter has a handle on this process. Club coaches are going to play a key role in communication, and the timing of that is going to be very important. And as you build these relationships with the college coaches, and they're beginning to get a real strong indication to what type of impact your daughter or son is going to have in their program, enlisting the club coach to be able to complement the communication that you have had with the college coaches, I think is going to be very important. I think I could probably come up with 100 questions that you can ask college coaches, but if you guys have a pencil and paper now, this might be something easy to scratch down. These are what I think are 5 good question areas to build your exact questions around to ask college coaches as you move through the recruiting process. Number 1, academic assistance. For example, coach, do you have an academic advisor that works with your student athletes in order to help them schedule their classes to avoid conflicts with practice and competition? Take it a step further. Do you help with study hall? Do you assign tutors? Most colleges and universities have an academic advisor, and they're tremendous resources. Coaching philosophy. Basically, remember, your daughter or son is going to be under the tutelage of a specific coach who runs a program a specific way. And finding as close to a right match as you can is important. Getting an idea of what coach's expectations are for his team is very important. Scholarships, financial aid. The cost of a college education is not going down, and there are only limited numbers of athletic scholarships that are available. So trying to determine where your daughter stands and what might be available in her recruiting cycle, for instance, I think is important. And communicating with the coaches from Division III institutions or Ivy League institutions that do not provide athletic scholarships and trying to get an idea of where they could possibly help, I think is critical. Recruiting goals. We're talking about numbers. You have colleges and universities that are fielding anywhere between 12 and 24 student athletes as part of their program. So if they're fielding 12, then you can almost bet that they're looking at a recruiting yield somewhere around 3 or 4 every cycle. If they're fielding a larger team, then of course there's going to be potentially more availability. Okay, and policies and procedures. These are basically the nuts and bolts of a college program. And to get a clear idea to what the coaches expect your son or your daughter to attain in being part of a worthy organization is another area where you can build your questions. Athletic scholarships. The times they are a-changing, and there's no doubt about that. I'll share with you my story first, okay? And this is going back a long, long time ago, okay? But as I mentioned before, I was a student athlete at Temple University. Actually, I was a two-sport athlete my freshman year. I was on the gymnastics team, and also I was a pole vaulter. I was on the track and field team, okay? But as I mentioned before, being proactive in this college recruiting process is going to give you the best chance in success. And beginning early, they define a prospect. The NCAA defines a prospect as a student that has started classes for the 9th grade in high school. And what a great time to begin. Maybe not necessarily in connecting directly with the coaches, but developing an educational awareness to how this process works. Anyway, back to my story. Okay, so I didn't begin the college recruiting process until the summer after my senior year in high school. Okay, you talk about starting late. It was beyond late. And I got lucky. I really did. I was a good athlete. I was. I grew up in Long Island in New York, and I was I was a track and field athlete. More importantly, I was a gymnast. And thank goodness I was able to connect with an institution that needed a guy like me. The track and field coach needed a pole vaulter, and the gymnastics coach needed an all-around, one additional all-around athlete. And so I basically had a half scholarship for track and field, half scholarship for gymnastics. The point I'm trying to make is don't do what I did, okay? And putting together your plan, especially when it comes to athletic scholarships, you want to get on the radar screen early on. You want to provide coaches with introductory information that is going to stream and continue, okay, all the way through the senior year in high school. You want to come across as an educated consumer, so therefore understanding NCAA rules and policies, understanding what the plan is and how that is organized is going to give the coach a clear impression that you basically have done your homework. Okay, you need to search availability. You've got to get face-to-face, voice-to-voice with the coaches, utilizing the club coach to connect directly with the college coaches and determine just how much scholarship is going to be available in your son's or daughter's recruiting cycle. You want to push yourself, your kids want to push yourself toward the A file as much as they possibly can. And the best way they can do that is to do well in the classroom and to advance constantly in the gym and to drive themselves to higher and higher levels and to compete at the highest level. You know, I have students out there that I work with, a lot of gymnasts that I work with, and for instance, right now is a perfect example. We've just completed the state championships for level 9 and 10. Okay, regionals are fast approaching in a couple of weeks, and then JO nationals. Okay, and so I've got students that had a terrific state competition, and I've got students that had a good state competition. Maybe they flawed on one event, had 2 falls on beam or whatever it may be. And my encouragement, and this is tough to be convincing with, especially with parents, is that you need to be able to show the college coaches full competitions, good, bad, or indifferent. Okay, it's an imperfect world out there, and the college coaches understand. But not only do they want to see the kids training, double twisting Yurchenkos into the pit, they want to see the real thing in competition, especially during the championship portion of the season. Okay, you're going to get to the point where your daughter or son is going to provide regular, updated information for the college coaches, and you want to be able to position yourself as a family to ask tough questions. Coach, what's available and where do I stand? Okay, there's 2 signing periods when it comes to athletic scholarships. And this is during the senior year in high school where your son or daughter will sign the national letter of intent. Okay, the early signing period is in mid-November of the senior year. The regular signing period actually is approaching next week in April of the senior year. I think it's important that we realize that there are a cap in the amount of athletic scholarships that college coaches can provide. So therefore, a fully funded, let's just use this as an example, a fully funded women's gymnastics college program has 12 full scholarships to give. Okay, 12 full scholarships. So on average in each cycle, we're looking at somewhere around 3 full scholarships that will be available to prospects. Okay, there are programs out there that aren't fully funded. Perhaps they have 6 scholarships to give. Okay, but the important number here when it comes to athletic scholarships is 12, because 12 is the maximum number of student athletes that can be on any form of athletic scholarship in a given year. So you might think that if a coach has 12 scholarships to give, they can split it to 24. That is not the case. 12 is the maximum number of athletes that are permitted to be on any form of athletic aid. Now, they can qualify for additional aid, whether it's academic, community leadership, and being able to communicate with the coach and trying to determine what's available inside the institution is also very helpful. Okay. Athletic scholarships at this point in time anyway, this is likely going to change in the future, but is a 4-year athletic scholarship. They're 1-year commitments, 1-year agreements renewed annually. So your daughter could qualify for an athletic scholarship and sign the national letter of intent for her freshman year in college and lose it in the sophomore year. On the other hand, a student could walk on to a gymnastics college program in her freshman year and qualify for an athletic scholarship in the sophomore year. So it's important to remember, these are 1-year agreements that are renewed annually. Financial aid, basically what we're talking about is Division III or, for instance, Ivy League programs that do not offer athletic scholarships, or Division I or Division II programs that have exhausted their athletic scholarships. Okay. One tool that I used as a head coach of gymnastics at the University of Pennsylvania was my ability to be able to help the families go through a financial aid pre-read to get an early indication to how much grant the family was going to qualify for, or internal scholarships that might be available. Terrific tool. Okay. And we would typically be able to do this during the summer prior to the senior year in high school. Okay, so if you're looking at colleges or universities that don't offer athletic scholarships, or where these athletic scholarships have exhausted, talk directly with the coach and try to get an indication to what, if any, connection or relationship they have with the Office of Financial Aid to provide this pre-read. Okay, so typically, as long as we had the past year taxes, all W-2 forms, 1099s, outside income, business income, as long as we had that information forwarded to the Office of Financial Aid, they would be able to come back within 10 days and give the families an idea of what their PC was going to be, their parental contribution. And as we all know, the lower the parental contribution, the better. Okay. But what a great tool to be able to at least get an idea of where you potentially stand, okay? And connecting directly with the coach with regard to that is important, okay? And timing with that is also very important. The one thing you don't want to do is ask that question if coach can reach out to financial aid and work on your behalf if you have not established a foundational relationship with coach. Do that. Establish that relationship, grow that relationship, and you're going to position yourself to begin to ask tough questions. There's lots of internal scholarships available, a lot. But another strategy would be to be able to beat the bushes and try to determine what scholarships are available in your community, in your region, and that could help offset the cost of the education. Division III schools are unique institutions. The Ivy League is unique as far as opportunity is concerned. Like I said, Division III programs, Ivy League programs do not offer athletic scholarships. They're great academic institutions for the most part, okay? And your strategy here really is being able to utilize your son or your daughter's ability as a gymnast to navigate what could be a very tough admissions process. And I remember when I was a college coach at Penn, and I could say with accuracy that 80% of student athletes that were members of my team over a 19-year period would not have been admitted to Penn without my support. That's a big number. So therefore, being a gymnast, being an athlete, can weigh strongly in coach supporting an application that would typically not make it through the admissions process. Same with Division III. Okay, and just jumping to Division III for a second, their recruiting rules are a little bit softer. They're a little bit more relaxed. So where college coaches can't initiate contact early on, Division III coaches can. By phone, for instance, in the sophomore year, by text. The rules are much more relaxed. So if you're looking at Division III programs, then remember that you'll have an easier time of it as far as communicating with the college coaches. Likewise, with as we discussed the financial aid pre-read with Division III and Ivy League programs, when you build that relationship with the college coaches, don't be afraid to jump in there and ask if your daughter or son can get an admissions pre-read. And again, another strong tool for the college coach to be able to give the families an indication to where their children stand. Okay, and based on their transcripts and based on their test scores, their current test scores, the Office of Admission will do a pre-read and turn around that request within a week. And that gives the students and the families at least an idea of what their admissions index is for the Division III programs or for the Ivy League programs. And there's a minimum standard that each program cannot go below. Okay, to give you an example, and let's just use the Ivy League as a really good example. They have a floor in the admissions index, and that number is a 171, and they have a ceiling, which is 240. And that ceiling, if you can imagine, perfect scores on the SAT, 80. Okay, perfect aggregate score on the ACT, 36. Which is translated to an 80, okay? Valedictorian in the class, straight A's, all AP and honors courses, 80, 240, okay? So, what is the lower end of the admissions index? A student who is a solid B student in general coursework, a student who presents on average 600 on the SAT, perhaps a 25 on the ACT, okay? And so there you have the floor and the ceiling, and the trick is for your son or daughter to fall within those parameters. Ivy League, Division III, no athletic scholarship, tough, but we're talking about a true investment in our children's future. The personal profile and written correspondence. I love developing the profiles for the students that I work with because I know exactly what college coaches are looking for, okay? But basically what you want to do is consider the profile almost like a resume, okay? But you want it to be concise, you want important information to jump out, and you want to keep it brief and right to the point, one page, okay? So typically when I build my profiles for the kids that I work with, I divide it into 4 areas. At the top is all contact information, okay, including graduation year and the fact, of course, that they're a gymnast. And an action shot that will complement the profile as well. Everything on the left is academic, okay, which is going to include the high school, the guidance counselor's information, phone numbers, email addresses, updated coursework, grade point average, etc. Everything on the right-hand side is going to be everything gymnastics. The club they attend, the level they train, competition advancement, skills they're competing, skills they're training, and a video link in order to help the coaches do an evaluation. Okay, but the rule of thumb is that coaches have hundreds of students that could be interested in their program or their institution. So what we want to do with the profile is basically help the coaches in the evaluations. Roughly you get 90 seconds. And you want to be able to help the coaches read the information that is most important to make it into that active recruiting file. Simple, crisp, right to the point. Oh, if I could just jump back to the importance of when your daughter is initially and regularly communicating with the college coaches, whether it's by email or by phone. I think this is really important for parents, and I always encourage my students that I work with to remember that your parents are critical to this team effort. Okay, so being able to work with your children in developing email responses or introduction emails to the college coaches, getting them, encouraging them to use spell check, checking grammar, helping them in formulate communication that's clear and crisp, and practicing with communication like they practice with gymnastics and they dedicate themselves in school is critical. The video really complements the personal profile, and again, you know, the rule of thumb when it comes to video is you want to keep it timely, crisp, and right to the point. Coaches don't have time to review videos that are 10 minutes long. The rule of thumb is to keep it to 5 minutes at the most. And there's different types of videos that you're going to be able to provide the college coaches. So let's start at the summer. Remember before I talked about sharing goals that your children have on each event during the summer. You know, say they competed a laid out Yurchenko in the previous season, and they have every intention of moving that to a full twisting Yurchenko, or that big release on bars, a triple series on beam, okay, or pushing a double tuck to a double pike on floor. You want to share that information with the coaches. And what it does is it kind of puts our kids on a spot, and that's good, okay, because what it does is it helps drive them in order to reach that end. But providing the coaches with regular updates during the summer, I think, is just as important. So being able to give, you know, send that email with those goals out to the college coaches after the season, providing the coaches with an update in mid-June, mid-July, mid-August, okay, I think is going to be very helpful in giving the coaches a clear idea of not only are your children goal-oriented, but they attack their goals and they reach their goals, okay. Videos need to catch the attention of the coaches, okay, so putting together your children's best stuff is important, using a montage technique in order to display his or her best performance. But there's also going to come a time when you have to, in my mind, provide the coaches with specific meet video, okay, whether it's state regionals or nationals or a specific competition during the season. College coaches love to see kids that have strong skills. They like it better when they competed successfully. I think that YouTube is your best friend as far as videos are concerned. It's a free service, and you can post videos as public or private and share with whomever you want to. And our kids are pretty tech savvy as far as videos are concerned. As long as you can upload the video to your laptop, your children will be able to edit that video. You can certainly hire a professional to do this, but I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with the ability of your children to meet that end, okay, to provide the coaches with a seamless one-click video. That's important. You want to try to, you know, like I said, we're trying to help the college coaches in this evaluation process. And sometimes you've got kids that'll forward 4 or 5 separate videos. Well, that's 4 or 5 clicks and everything that goes with it that could potentially frustrate the coaches. So the nice thing about YouTube is that you can create the seamless video on the laptop and upload it to YouTube and share with the college coaches. And that website is youtube.com. Oh, by the way, if you want to get examples of videos, you can go to YouTube and just search gymnastics college recruiting, and a whole slew will come up. I think the difference between a good college recruiting process and a great college recruiting process is the manner in which we organize and manage. As I mentioned in the first frame, these are 4 of the most important years in the lives of our children, okay? And they're going to be at a crossroads in their lives where they're going to make a decision that is going to impact that life for moving forward, okay? And I think it's important that we begin early and we make a dedicated effort to take a educational and informational approach to learning how this recruiting process plays out. Imagine if your children would go to the gym during the middle of the season, and their coaches would basically say, I'm confident you guys are going to have a great meet this coming weekend, but we're going to let you go on your own. You can do whatever you want as far as training is concerned. Well, that might seem appealing at first, but our kids and we as parents, we want direction. We want goals set in front of us. It's going to give us the best chance at success. Okay, so taking time to wrap your arms around NCAA procedures and rules, putting together a college list based on the certain operatives. One thing I do with the students I work with is I provide them with a 10-question assessment that gives me a very clear idea to what they're looking for in a college experience. And, of course, the gymnastics experience in this particular case is very important. But, what are they looking to do as far as a career is concerned, even potentially? Are they looking to go into the medical field? Are they looking to go into business? Okay. Do they want to be teachers? Whatever it happens to be. But being able to grow a college list that will, at least in the beginning, meet those operatives, I think is important. Get on their websites, poke around, get an idea of what the culture happens to be of that particular institution, learn about the school, get on the gymnastics page and learn about their history, get an idea of how they're doing. This helps all in the organization process. But what it does is it develops an information base, but more importantly, it develops confidence in this important process. You want to be able to look further out and try to 3-4 months in advance to what your plan is as far as moving this process forward, whether it's marking on your calendar that you've got to make this particular communication with the coach after this competition, or provide coach with an update as far as how you're doing in the classroom. Let coach know when you guys are planning on a unofficial visit to campus. Speaking and sitting down with the club coach and requesting that coach reach out to a number of the college coaches and speak on your daughter's behalf. This basically, as I mentioned, is going to be the difference between a good and a great process, and it will give you the edge in a very competitive arena. And finally, the management and what I call the team approach in this process is going to help create terrific momentum. Bear with me 1 second. My screen just... Here we go. Okay. And so who is the team? Okay, well, think of the team as a bicycle wheel. And at the hub of that wheel is the prospect. And each spoke in the wheel is someone who is on this team and an important part of this process. So spoke 1, mom, dad, club coach, guidance counselor who's going to be helping in the admissions process and working with the application. a mentor. Okay, these are all people that play a very important role in the process and can help minimize the stress on our children. Okay, and so here's a perfect example would be, your daughter reaches out to one of the college coaches by email and basically states clearly that we're planning to visit campus on this day at this particular time and would love to set up a meeting with you. I realize that you can't call due to NCAA rules, but my mom or dad will follow up this email by phone next week and hopefully line everything up. What a great team effort that is right there, and seamless. Okay, but everyone needs to understand, what their roles are as far as this process is concerned. For instance, the guidance counselor not only helps with the college application process, but is crucial as far as NCAA eligibility is concerned. And doing what you can to even meet, once or twice during the year just to identify how the process is moving forward is going to make a big difference. Okay. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell there, Lakeisha. The final decision. Okay. So, in a perfect world, being able to line up your ducks step by step over the course of years, in a sense, or a year or 2 years, whatever it happens to be, wherever you happen to be in the recruiting process at this point in time, okay, is going to be able to give yourself the best chance at success. Be organized, well managed, okay, planning for the future, a very important life decision, okay, and like a perfect season, if you have these ducks laid out and if you execute the plan, it's going to be a natural spiral to success, okay, and when you get to that point where the college coach has made that offer or you have met the standards for that particular institution from an admission standpoint, from a gymnastics standpoint, it's going to be a feeling in our hearts that is going to be right because of the effort that you put forth.
Perfect. So we are wrapping up here. Tom, did you want to talk a little bit about your book and your resources in our USA Gymnastics Technical Materials store before we open for questions?
Yeah, when I first started Victory Collegiate Consulting about 9 years ago, I'm a simple-minded guy. I'm not a smart guy. I never will be. But, I've got this experience going through the recruiting process that is really invaluable. And one of the things that I realized early on was, I've got a story to tell because of the experience I enjoyed. And I wrote a book called Reaching for Excellence. And it tries to take a complicated message and simplify it. It's easy reading material, and I strongly encourage you to get a copy. And Lakeisha, it's available at USAG store, right?
Yes, it is available. So if you go to our website, usagym.org, at the top, it's to the left of our logo in the middle of the screen. You can click on stores and then select the USA Gymnastics Technical Materials store. So we have here, you can search our items by category or by item number. So we have the item number here for Tom Kovic's book, Reaching for Excellence, an Educational Guide for College Athletics. The item number is 8101. So that is available in our technical materials store, and you can dial our 800 line at 1-800-345-4719 and select option 1 to order your copy over the phone. All right.
Very good. And if any of you are interested in, I've got a website. You can poke around on that at www.victoryrecruiting.com.
Perfect. So we will go ahead and get right into the questions here. We got quite a few questions, Tom. So our first question is, can a homeschool student receive an athletic scholarship?
Great question, and the answer to that is yes. Homeschooled students are actually becoming, or actually growing as far as prospects are concerned. As far as going through the eligibility process, you've got to make sure that it's an accredited homeschool agency that you're working with, and just be proactive and clear in providing the eligibility center with course information that's approved and, of course, grades. As far as athletic scholarships are concerned, a homeschool prospect is going to be treated the same as a student that goes to a public school or private school.
Perfect. Now, what is the relevance of the July 1st date regarding college coaches' interaction? If you could just briefly touch on that.
July 1st is basically the first opportunity for college coach. And this is July 1st after the junior year, Lakeisha?
There wasn't a specific time after what year. It just says after that July 1st date, so maybe if you want to clarify.
Sure. Yeah. So July 1st after the junior year in high school is the first opportunity for college coaches to pick up the phone and generate phone calls to prospects and their families. Okay? So they had to wait basically until that time. And personally, I would hope that everybody out there will have been in touch proactively with the college coaches by phone well before that. But it's an opportunity for the coaches to pick up the phone and dial. Okay, they're permitted to do it one time per week, from that point all the way through the senior year in high school.
Perfect. Now, our next question is asking to explain this process. So this is the process. For example, there's an 8th grade student who will graduate class of 2019 who is already being looked at by recruiters, and some are signed in the first semester of their freshman year, which you did go over a little earlier. Is there any ability to compete or to complete the NCAA eligibility registration process without high school information?
No. To complete the NCAA eligibility information, the NCAA EC is going to need transcripts through the senior year in high school. So where prospects are making verbal commitments to college coaches and college coaches are doing the same with prospects, remember this. It's a great thing, obviously, to be able to get this verbal offer. But all it is a gentleman's handshake. There's nothing written, nothing signed. And a student athlete can release him or herself from that commitment, and so can the college coach. But as far as NCAA eligibility is concerned, to get to that scholarship and sign the national letter of intent, they need to complete successfully all the courses we talked about in eligibility through the senior year in high school, including standardized testing.
Perfect. Our next question is, how do we determine the number of scholarships still available? So where can we go to find that?
Great question. Again, it goes back to, the timing and asking these tough questions. And it takes some time to develop personal relationships with a lot of coaches. So one way to do it, obviously, is to be able to ask coach face-to-face, and you'll get to that point. But considering the number of verbal offers that are made available, especially, as we mentioned, to juniors, sophomores, freshmen, even middle school students, you want to pretty much get an idea of what is available. One strategy would be to simply ask the club coach to reach out directly to the college coach and introduce him or herself and politely ask, what's available in the 2019 class. Okay. Another great resource is collegegymfans.com that basically keeps the gymnastics community updated to who's made commitments and, in certain cases, what is available at particular colleges or universities. But again, I personally, I like to hear it from the horse's mouth. So probably the best strategy, depending on where you are in the process, early on, I would ask the club coach to reach out and try to get a gauge to what's available.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Tom. Our next question is, what is a guideline to follow so that you do not do something, and this is in regards to fundraising and scholarships, that would disqualify your child from being from the NCAA requirements?
Yeah, what we're talking about here are extra benefits. And the rule of thumb when it comes to even a thought that there might be a possible infringement on NCAA rules regarding extra benefits would simply be this. Pick up the phone and call the NCAA. Introduce yourself and explain what you're trying to do from a fundraising standpoint or whatever it may be. Because when it comes to extra benefits, it could adversely affect the eligibility of your son or daughter. Okay, but these are the people that put the rules in places, and if you have it laid out specifically to what the intention is and what the procedure is going to be, you can simply ask the NCAA, and they will let you know. They're a terrific organization.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And at what level do you recommend a parent getting her daughter involved at a competitive gym? Would it be level 7 or 8 or possibly a different level to get them prepared for the collegiate level?
Well, you can never really start too early as far as developing an information base on how this process works. But I would say that I think the middle school is a great time to begin learning from a fun standpoint how this process works. Okay. Like for instance, my wife and I, we have a 13-year-old, Hannah. She's in 7th grade, lacrosse player. And, after going to the NCAA championships last year, now, her dream is to go to the University of North Carolina. Tough school to get admitted, But at least I know that my daughter is now just kind of getting an inkling to how what her future looks like. I think getting our kids to look further out than what typical teenagers historically do is not only important, but it's fun. So gathering information, trying to identify operatives that are important in the college of choice, trying to get an idea, maybe not what major they're looking at, but what area do they thrive, math, science, English, whatever it happens to be. And begin to identify college programs that offer these academic areas, that have gymnastics programs, that are, maybe it's a urban environment or college town environment, rural environment that they're interested in, but, begin to kind of poke around as a family and learn about different colleges and universities is a great way to begin. And as you approach the 9th grade, okay, to begin to connect earnestly with the college coaches, not overwhelmingly, but earnestly, in providing them with information that lets them know that you're interested potentially in their institution and that you will provide them with general updates moving forward. Does that make sense, Lakeisha? Yes,
that does. I hope that answers your question for one of our attendees here. But, yes, that makes more sense of the question. Our next question is regarding admission and pre-reads for D1 schools for men's gymnastics. So are there admission pre-reads for D1 schools, and do the male gymnasts find out that they have been admitted before the early signing period?
Great question. There are, certainly when you look at men's programs, there's, just under 20 men's programs nationwide. But, a few stand out a little bit more from the selectivity in the admissions process. Stanford, the University of Michigan, Berkeley, or just examples. And these college coaches, they certainly want these young men, these boys, to be an integral part of their program. Okay, They're strong from a gymnastics standpoint. They can be impactful. But before they really move forward with that commitment, they've got to have an indication to, where they stand from an academic standpoint, where they stand from an admission standpoint. So when communicating with the college coaches, it could be, the University of Illinois. It could be, Ohio State. What you want to do in part of cultivating this relationship, part of the evaluation process, is give the coaches what they need in order to evaluate. You want to be able to get in there and ask those tough questions we talked about before. Questions from a scholarship standpoint, financial aid. But the admissions process is critical. It doesn't matter how strong your son or daughter happens to be from a gymnastics standpoint. If they don't meet the minimum requirements for admission, even as an athlete, they can't participate as part of that program. So yes, being able to ask coaches for, based on your initial evaluation from a gymnastics standpoint, from an academic standpoint, with test scores, can you give me an idea of where my son stands in the recruiting process and what needs to be done, if necessary, to advance to a higher level? Right.
Perfect. For our next question, and this is from a coach's perspective, when are the coaches allowed to contact, or what are the coaches' allowable contact dates for a student who will be at a high school junior year in the fall? So maybe just briefly touch on that.
So a current sophomore that is going to be a junior in September.
Okay.
And what the question is what are the is it a club coach?
Didn't specify.
Okay, well, basically when it comes to contacts, where college coaches are restricted from communicating proactively with prospects and families, they don't have that restriction with club coaches or high school coaches. So there's a clean funnel of communication that can go back and forth. There should be no restrictions that I can think of.
Okay, perfect. Now, is the scholarship, you mentioned the scholarship max of 12 scholarships, does that only apply for gymnastics scholarships, or is that across the board for all sports at any colleges or universities?
Yeah, terrific question. And the answer to that is every sport is different as far as their maximum count of scholarship athletes. So where women's gymnastics is at 12, men's gymnastics is at 6.2. Football is going to have basically their number, track and field, lacrosse, okay, and getting on the NCAA website, ncaa.org, and searching maximum scholarship opportunities per sport is going to give you the breakdown on every sport.
Okay, perfect. Let's see here. How do event specialists differ from AA scholarship athletes, and what is the likelihood of getting a scholarship at a lower division school?
Well, I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you. In a perfect world, would a college coach love to be able to recruit and retain the top 3 all-arounders from JO Nationals year in and year out? Of course they would, but it's not going to happen. It's just very competitive out there. So basically, college coaches' strategies in recruiting is not so much, looking at the complete all-around athlete, as much as it is in filling gaps. So therefore, let's just use women's gymnastics as an example. You've got 4 events, vault, bars, beam, floor. You've got 6 competitors that can compete on each event in any competition. That's 24 potential recruiting spots. So a coach in any particular given year might look at his current team and say, well, over the course of the next 2 or 3 years, I'm going to be a little bit weak on beam, or I'm going to be a little bit weak on vaulting, bars, whatever it happens to be. Okay, and we'll use that in developing his or her strategy as far as recruitment is concerned. So if they need a knockout vaulter they're going to look for that knockout vaulter. Now, whether that kid can contribute another 2 or 3 events, that's to be seen, okay? But they're looking to fill gaps. Now, remember that magic number, that cap number, in this particular case is 12, okay? So they're certainly not going to recruit 12 specialists. It wouldn't field the team, okay? So the rule of thumb is simply this. The better the all-around athlete, the more likely they're going to be recruited and more likely they're going to receive an athletic scholarship if they are strong enough to impact that program. That being said, the next level strategy is going to be identifying prospects that offer individual events, plural, to be able to help the program, and that could be 2 or 3. And then the third level would certainly be prospects that offer one strong, brilliant event, and each coach is different as far as their philosophy is concerned, their strategy is concerned in offering scholarships. Again, being able to get to the point where you can simply ask the question, Coach, considering, my daughter, my son, happens to be an outstanding vaulter or an outstanding high bar guy, do you have room for a guy like him or for a young lady like her? And is it impactful enough that warrants a scholarship?
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Tom. Our next question is regarding the changes in scholarship availability. So can you talk about those changes going from 1-year commitments to 4-year commitments? Is this starting in 2016? Or maybe clarify if this question is, if the statement in the question is correct.
Yeah, could you repeat that, Lakeisha?
Sure. So the question is about the changes in scholarship availability going from 1-year commitments to 4-year commitments. Is this something that's actually starting in 2016?
Not that I know of. And there's a lot of rumbling going on now as far as athletic scholarships, making 4-year commitments to scholarships, and it's beginning with the sport of football. Okay. They're also talking about the redefining the athletic scholarship to not only include tuition, room and board, books and fees, but also travel for the student athletes, so they would actually receive more than the cost of attendance. But there is nothing that I have read so far that has actually put that new rule in stone. I have not read anything yet with regard to the NCAA on that specific decision.
Okay, wonderful. Our next question, and we may have, and forgive me if I repeated this, we have quite a bit of questions. What level of gymnastics is needed to be considered a prospect for D1 through D3 women's gymnastics, women's artistic gymnastics? Well,
I'm not demeaning, Division III, but, your stronger gymnasts are likely going to be at the Division I level, and Division III talent is a slight level below. Okay, so, do Division III college coaches recruit level 9 and level 8 athletes? They do. Would they like to have level 10 athletes on their team? Absolutely. Okay. Are Division I programs recruiting more level 10 athletes compared to level 9? Depends on the coach. At the higher level, when you're talking about top programs nationwide, top 12, top 20, their roster is likely going to include almost all level 10 athletes. But if you go below in ranking, there's a chance that you're going to see some level 9 student athletes as part of certain programs, especially if they can lend a very strong event or two to impact that team.
Okay, wonderful. Our next question is again from the college perspective. As a college, what is more important to select gymnasts for your team, especially for an Ivy League school? Do you want a more balanced or just a more balanced team or just a strong individual gymnast?
Well, in a perfect world, and, I went through this for almost 20 years when I was at Penn, you would love to be able to bring in a kid that competes at a high level on every event. I mean that's ideal. But as I mentioned before, they're going to look to fill gaps. I did that. I would look 2-3 years out and try to determine just what I needed for a championship program moving forward. So they, coaches like to reach high, and there's nothing wrong with that. So they're going to reach toward that top talent, okay? But as the dust settles, they're going to realize that this is the field of prospects that basically they're going to narrow to. That aside, and especially with the Ivy League, they need, college coaches are going to be recruiting your sons, your daughters, from an academic standpoint first. They have to. Your children can be the most talented athletes in the world, but if they don't meet the minimum requirements for admissions, they're not going to be part of that program. So their strategy is simple. Recruit from the academic standpoint first, and then, of course, they're going to recruit from the athletic standpoint. But just like college coaches reach and dream, so should our children, and so should our families, as long as you have one foot grounded and understand the stakes moving forward.
Perfect. Our next question is regarding visits, so unofficial visits. So this attendee is asking about their daughter finishing up the 8th grade. Would this summer be too early for unofficial visits?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, perfect.
I don't think so. I think it's a great time to, remember, it's all about kind of like breathing in this new environment of college recruiting and the college experience. I think, making, for instance, local or regional visits, and as I mentioned before, register for the information session, do the tour. The operative here is to be able to, for your son or for your daughter, as still a young teenager, to walk away from this experience feeling excited. You have an excited student that's passionate about this process, and you're likely to grow greater momentum moving forward. And you have nothing to lose in order to reach out to the coaches and ask them if they have any availability to meet briefly with you.
Okay, perfect. Our next question is regarding online high school programs. So how do I verify the online high school program I'm considering for my daughter to start next school year? How do I make sure that meets all the NCAA eligibility requirements?
Yikes. That is an area, Lakeisha, that I'm not expert in as far as online courses are concerned.
Yes.
But my gut tells me that so would this be a student that is currently in a traditional high school that's taking online courses in the future?
We don't have that information at this time, so let's just say it could possibly be for someone coming into high school or, just going into the 9th grade and looking at online options for high school.
Yeah. If they are in traditional high school, then what you can do is go to the guidance counselor's office and ask them if they can present these courses to the NCAA for verification. But either way, the coursework will need to be verified as that would successfully pass through the NCAA eligibility center. And again, I apologize, but this is not an area that I'm expert in.
Okay, thank you, Tom. No problem. We appreciate that. We'll try to help direct you to the right place. There is a survey that you can fill out right after we finish this recording to give us your feedback or any additional questions, and we'll get back in contact with you and try to steer you to the right direction. A couple more questions, and we will wrap up. Our next question is regarding community college. So we have students in our area that can go to community colleges, juniors and seniors. Would they be eligible for NCAA eligibility at the next level?
Yes, they would. Basically, the advanced They're likely advanced courses that are not offered at the high school, and this will all be part of the eligibility information that will be provided the NCAA EC. But just to make sure, what I would do is present the NCAA Eligibility Center with this particular question, and note the community college or the junior college that the prospect is going to attend, including the courses as well, and just to double check and make sure on the higher end.
Okay, perfect. Our next question: does a college coach want to hear more from a club or coach of the family of the athlete more so than the actual parent during the recruiting process?
It's a balance. I think it's a great question. And remember, this is a team effort where prospect, club coach, family, mom and dad play important roles. They do want to hear from mom and dad. These are our children. They're going to be making a very important life decision. We want them to be able to select independently, but we want to help guide them. There's just a natural nurturing process that we as parents and a caring that we have for our children. That aside, club coach is going to play his or her role. I think the important thing is to realize that in this whole management process, this team effort, is to be able to segment responsibilities. So a club coach is going to be able to speak on more down-to-earth terms. They're going to be talking about the prospect. They're going to be talking in a gymnastics language. They're going to talk about not only what kind of a gymnast this particular prospect happens to be, but what kind of a person. Is it a strong link in the team chain? Does that student happen to be a loose cannon on the inside of the program? Club coaches are going to be truthful and honest when they speak with college coaches. But parents communicate from a different level, and I think we should. But we've just got to be careful to realize that helping our children think and do for themselves is going to be a great lesson that we can provide them in demonstrating that third component, that character component, with college coaches.
Perfect. Just a couple more questions. So one quick question: how many walk-ons can a team have?
That is really a question for each individual coach and each institution. For instance, certain athletic directors from certain programs will have squad size caps that their college coaches need to meet. Okay, and typically, as we mentioned before, we've got Division I college programs that are fully funded. You've got 12 athletic scholarships, 12 student athletes that are on athletic scholarships. You've got programs out there that will bring on an additional 2 or 3 walk-on athletes. You've got programs out there that'll stretch that to 5 or 6. Okay, with regard to Division III, Division I AA, the Ivy League, perhaps there's more availability where you see bigger squad sizes. This is going to be a question for each individual coach.
Okay, perfect. And actually, just a couple more questions. I think this is a really good question. So should parents pay money to a scout to help with recruiting, or is this something that should happen naturally through the process that you've outlined here for us?
Well, just remember we're talking about eligibility for our student athletes. And it all depends on the family situation, their ability to be able to manage this process. Do they need an advisor, a guide? And that's really going to be up to each individual family. The important thing is that if they do bring someone on board, they feel comfortable with this individual and that they can help them advance step by step through the process. That being said, it's important to realize that according to NCAA rules, if you use an outside agency that is whose intent is to connect directly with the college coaches on the family's behalf, that could very well put your son's or daughter's eligibility in jeopardy. Okay, they would be considered agents. Okay, so to be able to work with someone who can help educate, lay the groundwork, lay the planning, but with the clear knowledge that it's the family and the student athlete and the club coach that is going to execute the plan, that is a good resource as long as the family feels comfortable with that.
Okay, wonderful. And we'll have just our last question here in regards to attending summer camps. And you can address this question just for all gymnastics disciplines, men's artistic gymnastics, women's artistic, and so on and so forth. What is your take on summer camps, and is that really helpful for the college recruiting process?
I think summer camps are great, especially summer camps that are have been targeted and identified by prospects as part of the A-list and who offer either clinics or camps during the summer or during the year. Basically, it kills two birds with one stone. Not only does it provide the opportunity for the prospect to be evaluated by the coaching staff on that college campus, but it actually acts as a unofficial visit where you're able to see campus, stay in the dorms, eat meals, have communication with the college coaches. I think it's terrific. There's a number of larger camp opportunities that are out there which are brilliant as far as opportunity and training is concerned. The question is, will the college coaches that happen to be on your A-list, will they be in attendance? So, attending the camp is one thing. Attending the camp to be evaluated is something altogether different. There's also showcases that are available now during the summer where college coaches attend and are becoming more popular. There, too, is another option.
Okay, perfect, wonderful. We will have to go ahead and end this webinar for, there's just a couple more questions that we had. If you could actually put those in as soon as you log off of this webinar, there will be a survey that pops up. Please give us your feedback and any additional questions that you may have thought of after the webinar is concluded. Include that there, and we will get those to Tom and make sure we get those answered for you. But, Tom, we just want to thank you so much for doing this webinar. It's very informational, very, very well done.
Thanks, Lakeisha, and it's a privilege to be able to speak to the community out there. I wish everybody all the best of luck and a terrific weekend as well.
Thank you so much, Tom. This will be posted on our webpage at www.usagym.org/webinar, and you can follow us on LinkedIn as well under USA Gymnastics. USA Gymnastics, begin here, go anywhere. Thank you.